Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cybersecurity Recruiter Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Brennan Lodge. How you doing, my man?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having
Yeah, nice to see you, my friend. Yeah, we were planning this a few months back, but it just goes so quick, doesn't it? The older I get, the smaller of a percentage of my life, like a month or a year is. So the older I get, the quicker and quicker it's going. But yeah, no, Brennan, nice to see you, my friend. I'm looking forward to diving into some stuff today. You've held some interesting positions in the past, and you're doing some interesting work now. So for the listeners that don't know you, my friend, I'm just going to do you a bit of an intro. If I get anything wrong, feel free to correct me. But spent some time at Goldman Sachs in a lead position in and around data science. You've also spent some time at BlockFi. You were also in a head of position related to cybersecurity for HSBC. And you are currently the founder of BLodgic, which is your own company, which you've been involved with for around 7 years. You were also professor at New York University, director of information security at Manhattan Institute, and you're also a fractional CISO, DeepTempo. I need to get some time management training off, my friend, because you sound busy.
I like staying busy. It's fun. And full-time dad, of course. 2 kids, wife, and a family man. So those are the priorities, but everything else can come second with those types of roles.
Cool. Nice to see you again, my friend, and thanks for taking the time. I know I've done you a bit of an intro there, but I always like to start where I always start, which is who are you? What do you get up to? What's a day in the life like for Brennan right now?
Yeah. So pretty busy. My career has transpired over a variety of different things, different interests, different goals. And right now I feel like it's a lot of fun. I get to balance a couple different roles, but I'm at the place where I want to be, which is leading an information security program, getting to do some hands-on work, some consulting, build out a business, a product. And yeah, these things don't happen overnight, but it's been a fun journey from starting in the SOC and having to do the work there and follow the sun model of the 24/7 SOC work. And then transitioning a bit, given my interests and skill sets in data and providing metrics, analytics, and data science deliverables for cybersecurity in the blue team, and then evolving, maturing in my career, managing a SOC, and then pivoting a bit after going back to school and doing some data science work and finding out this niche of now a sexy topic of cybersecurity and AI. At the time, back in 2014, it was prediction, machine learning, and big data. And now everything under the umbrella of AI has led me to doing some fractional CISO work, building out an information security program pretty much from scratch at a few places, startups, middle tier market businesses, but coming from the enterprise and the banks, like you had mentioned.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, interesting, buddy. You mentioned there as well, like, stuff not happening overnight. And I just think like it's such a valid point to make, because like in the world of social media or even LinkedIn now, you just see snapshots a lot of the time of people doing really well, or people just raising funds, or people just having an exit. And it's such a valid point to make. It's important to remember good things take time, don't they?
Yeah. And go figure, people don't like to boast about their failures. But in order to get to success, it's almost 5-10x failures you've had to come across of business opportunities or interviews or job opportunities. Look, you're going to fail along the way. And it's just a matter of either not caring and just moving on really quickly, sulk a little bit, but learn from those mistakes. And if you're able to learn and just move on, then you're going to get better.
Yeah, I think so. I see one of my friends once said to me, very successful friend of mine, he said, Tommy goes, if you just get over the bad times quick and just get back on it, chances are you'll be pretty successful in life. And it's so true. And I can think of examples in life where I know people that were doing pretty well and they got big setbacks and they actually just never got over them. And then I can think of other examples where I know people that have been hit like 3-4 times, and they still ended up doing pretty well. So yeah, I think that mental resilience and realizing that patience is a virtue, and I need to remind myself of that sometimes. I think it can go a long way, mate, can't it?
It reminds me of one of my favorite movies from Philly as well. So the Rocky series, right?
Yeah.
It's not about how hard you get hit, but if you can get up after taking a big blow up, career setbacks or fails applications that you've delivered, or the list goes on in IT cybersecurity. Hey, we're here. We're still standing.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly, buddy. Cool. So in a minute, with your fractional work then, Brennan, so you've taken a lot of the learnings from the likes of JP Morgan, HSBC, and helping out other businesses. When you're going into these businesses, what are the sorts of learnings that you're giving people? What sort of things are you seeing that could be useful for me and other folks to hear about?
Yeah, it's the banking system is pretty robust, and you'll go figure that's where attackers or robbers back in the early days, they were going after the banks. So there's this inherent security type behavior with the banks, and that comes along with cybersecurity. Just being around the banks, usually big teams, big budgets for building out a robust cybersecurity program is pretty, not only from a regulatory standpoint, protecting the assets and monies of people's bank accounts. Just being in the room of meetings and hearing the different priorities and really smart folks that I've worked with the right attitude of how to build a program, now use that skill sets and experience to, start and build from scratch, but business aligned. Right? So some of the high priority things like regulations that are impacting the banks don't necessarily apply to the SMBs, but holding the line and setting those benchmarks high for myself and for the company that I'm consulting with on the fractional CISO front has helped.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. Do you find, Brennan, I suppose when you're in the fractional world and when you're dealing with SMBs, I can imagine the communication just takes center stage a lot more. I know from my own clients, when they're smaller, they tend to be very high touch, don't they?
Yeah. And that's fun of it, right? It's seeing that progress and the education, right? So I really think skill sets that I've learned from teaching and getting through to students parlays into the education at the executive board. Back to our boxing pun that we were talking about, Rocky, I always mention when information security, you're always hunting above your weight class, meaning wherever you are in the org, on the corporate ladder, you've got to get through to folks that are above you, a lot smarter than you, that make a lot more money than you. If you're able to get through to them and educate them, and it's a little sales tactics as well as, how to get things done, right? And imploring that security is important and how to get some budget or resources or plug a regulation gap. It's a fun boxing type job.
Yeah, it is, mate. Yeah, I know. And it's interesting to hear you talk about just dealing with people that are fairly high up the ladder. And I sometimes find just meeting them on be just here where you think, but just meeting them on a level and almost be respectful, being nice, but not showing too much respect. I got more respect for talking to them on a level, pushing back when appropriate, and it takes a while. Sometimes it takes a few years to get the confidence together to do all that. But I think when you can get to that stage, I think overall it builds a relationship and it allows you to get better results.
Yeah. And not take it too much on yourself. Find some allies, right? Don't be on an island, because when you're on an island dealing with cybersecurity matters, you then become the roadblock, the guy with the hammer looking for the nails of security problems. And that's not always going to work, especially with the SMBs, of being that guy that's holding up projects or holding up budgets because you're speaking from your soapbox and trying to implement security practices that may have been well for the banks, like where I come from, but don't fit within the SMBs because, hey, they're not mature enough, or you're not prioritizing correctly, or you're just not getting through to folks. So, you'll get some allies. I'm really lucky at my one role where my previous boss used to be a pen tester, and now he's chief legal counsel and COO. So he is in the corner of my ring, right, after taking each round and giving me a really good pep talk on what we did wrong, right, and how to get through to folk when we're trying to implement some high priority security things.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and just out of interest, what sort of, when he's advising or when he's getting through to security, is it trying to put stuff clearly and concise? Is it trying to see things from their perspective?
Yeah, it's meet them halfway. So, for example, like the phishing campaigns that I run, instead of coming after folks and saying, hey, you clicked on this phishing, what are you doing? Come on, it's easy, right? For me, it's easy because I build those phishing campaigns, but trying to meet them at that level and going back to that teaching moment of understanding where they're coming from, which is, hey, they're busy and they work within their inbox day in and day out. And they're trying to get that inbox down to zero. So that means they may click because they're just in the zones. Taking a step back, walking them through, looking for and having that like spidey sense of things that are threats, instead of just clocking through and trying to get your inbox down to zero, is a little nugget that I've learned to help implement and have a safer phishing test.
Yeah. I think as well, it's so true, because if it is like coming on there, almost making people feel stupid, it just alienates the security team or the security folks. And then it's like this them and us type scenario. And that just isn't the best way to improve a security posture. Definitely not the best way to get stuff signed off or stuff done.
Yeah. And it reminds me of the banking and enterprise days of the red team versus blue team and how much there's so much animosity. And I love the creation of the purple team, right? Not only as the referee coming into, hey, let's play a fair game here, but really understanding both sides of the coin of attack first defend and the special teams, right? A purple team coming in to help.
Yeah. Do you think that red team and blue team divide, do you think that happens less now? The reason I ask is, I've recruited in the US for ages now, but when I used to recruit in the UK, I used to hear that red team and blue team divide all the time, like really badly from candidates on the phone, but I don't hear it so much. Do you think it's still a thing, or maybe I'm just not hearing about it as much? I don't know. What do you think?
I still think it's a thing, and it's like fun banter. It shouldn't get like too nasty, and like it's good to have it within cybersecurity, right? And it's almost like a career trajectory, right? And now I remember like coming out of the SOC, like what's next? And this is what I love about this industry is there's so many different routes, avenues that you can take your career, and it's not always red versus blue. There's threat intel, there's management, there's system engineering and detection engineering. And now we're at the fold of the AI and building data science teams to build AI for cybersecurity, and then cybersecurity for AI. It's ever evolving, and yeah, I think the red versus blue is always fun.
Yeah, okay, yeah. As long as it's not taken too far, it's a good thing. And it's more fun.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Brennan, over the years, you've held director positions, head of positions. Like, these are postings that a lot of people want to get to. Is there anything that you've done over the years to get to those positions where perhaps other people haven't? Or is there anything now that you wish you maybe knew 4, 5, 6 years ago that could help other folks listening?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I've just been an ever learner, right? And a continuous learner, and not necessarily just picking up on trends, but finding a passion and an interest in a niche. So early in my career was working through the SOC and picking up a variety of skill sets just to do my job correctly. High pressure job, right? Similar to getting to inbox down to zero, the SIM or queue down to zero as a SOC analyst, and having to be that quick learner, right? So having a foundation of network fundamentals, host fundamentals, application security fundamentals, and along the way, I picked up a few certifications to help with that learning and build a base. And then finding out what my passion was and frustrations are, right? So actually the combination of those two came to be the data science role within the SOC. And the genesis of that came from just frustration out of some of the detection engineers building crappy alerts where I was seeing false positive after false positive time and time again. So instead of saying to the detection engineer, hey, this is like a stupid alert, this is a stupid alert because it showed up 12 times over the last week, and the rule itself was written for vulnerability back in 2009, which we've since patched for. And, oh yeah, check out this pretty report that I built that is getting the attention of management because, hey, they're trying to solve a problem of being more efficient, managing headcount, aligning them to the early metrics of the days of mean time to response, mean time to consolidate, and all the alerts and protections that you need and metrics that come along with it. But that turned into me realizing, oh, there's this data science thing. So I went back to school, got my master's, and started to bring back those like superpowers of data science, of metrics, analytics, some prediction, threat intel enrichment, and evaluating our detections and operation. And that led to a match with what, hey, in the SOC, it's their security operations center. How can we be more efficient with our operation? And that was around data analytics.
Yeah, cool. All right, my friend. Yeah, brilliant. So we'll have to dive into the data science piece in a bit more, Brennan, and the AI side, definitely. But essentially, just going back to getting up to head of, founder, director level, it was really taking the time to explain to other people what was going on, where they were going wrong, in a sense, mentoring them. You're passing knowledge on to other people, which is helping other people on the team. You're also reinforcing that pre-existing knowledge that you've already got in your own mind, which is reinforcing your own career growth and your career progression. But it was that, but really essentially just rather than just saying you're wrong, you're actually explaining and making it better for the future and helping others around you, essentially.
Yeah, and at the time, it was a different way of thinking. And credit to my management and the executive teams on realizing the trend of data science at the time and implementing that to be efficient rather than, at the time, a lot of organizations were just building more headcount, right? Like building an army of analysts to help manage the queue. And that could be from some of the vendors in the industry and the space of more breaches and throwing money at the problem. Now that's not true, right? Where we're seeing layoffs, penny pinching on vendors and using AI for automation. It's been a long time running for us to get here. And unfortunately, we're seeing that now. But, we're only victims of our own dismay of that previous culture of just building armies of security defenders to help with the problem. And go figure, that didn't work.
Yeah, it's like, I saw a post earlier about it, Brennan. It's like we're in that middle ground now because we've got all this AI and this automation coming in, and some of it is not so great, but some of it's phenomenal, and some of it's some really good use cases. But it's like this bit where it is great, but then it's like that really discomforting feeling of seeing all these people getting laid off.
Yeah, it's an inflection point for sure. And hey, it makes you think, about your career, about your impact and management and the companies that you're working for and the greater cause, right? Let's try and figure this out. And I don't think we'll ever figure it out in the cybersecurity space. There will be a ever-changing, ever-evolving, cat and mouse game that we're playing. But hopefully the traps get more sophisticated for the mice, right? With AI and automation.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. We've talked a bit about how AI is disrupting security. I know you've mentioned threat intel and enrichment. When it comes to data science, what kind of effect is AI having on that?
Yeah, I still think we're in the early innings of AI and its disruption. Definitely some realistic use cases out there. I mentioned the threat intel and just like context. And context is king for especially like junior folks that are trying to learn and understand how to react to alerts, how to react to new threats and interpreting them. Yes, you can have a concept of how the MOVEit vulnerability may impact and cause a remote code execution, right? For an example. But what does it mean for me? What does it mean for my network? What does it mean for the detections and defenses and multiple layers of defense that we need to implement to patch or protect against this vulnerability? I see it as a tide that rises all boats in the cybersecurity field, but of course, attackers are definitely using it to their advantage. So why not fight fire with fire of AI versus AI to even the playing field? You see some things like the AI SOC analyst, they may be good for tier 1 things, but it's only going to empower the attacker. And there's going to be new threat vectors or new types of attacks that are more sophisticated that the tier 2 and tier 3 teams need to step up their game and learn and patch and defend. And then over in the GRC field, I feel like it's really leg up to that area for which it's language, right? So large language models and interpreting regulations and the spirit of the laws that are written by these lawyers or maybe now written by AI LLM models for things like privacy, cybersecurity defense, breach notification, the frameworks. And I found a lot of value, again, going back to my frustrations, right? It was bad detections written by security engineers. And now as a fractional CISO, it's, hey, Brennan, we've got this audit coming up in 2 months. We need a better score than we did last year. Here are our policies. And hey, have at it. Of course, I'm going to use AI in order to help understand the company, the business, and then write policies and provide security controls to help with understanding those frameworks. My own little tools and little MVPs for GRC have really helped my game in the fractional CISO space and what's turned into a product.
Yeah. Like, do you know what? Hearing you talk there, I can, with like NIST 853, SOC 1, SOC 2, like any compliance related stuff where a framework is being followed, I can really see the benefits there. Obviously, you still need to know what you're doing because you know what, if you don't know what you're doing, AI can make you look really silly really quickly. But yeah, as long as you're staying switched on and you know what you're doing, which I know you do, my friend, I can imagine it being brilliant.
Yeah, and it's a new challenge for me. And I'm not going to go back and get my GD or legal degree in order to be a good like GRC analyzer or lawyer. And instead, why not use AI to help understand it? And back in my NYU teaching, I've done some research in this field, and it turns out a lot of the frameworks like NIST, ISO, SOC 2 are really good bedrocks for how these new regulations and laws and things are coming into this space. Just using those 3 types of frameworks and then comparing them against the spirit of the law of these 10 to 100 page regulations on GDPR really help you understand on what I need to freaking do when it comes to abiding by this new law that's come out. And if I use those 3 frameworks, it's a really good starting place to fill in those gaps of what the regulation is asking.
Yeah. Does it really say that example you gave of that client where they needed to get a better score than they got the last year? Does it really help for basically deciphering where those improvements need to be? I can imagine it. Is it good for that?
Yeah. So it's a great question. And I hear it in this GRC space all the time that these vendors explaining that, hey, we're not just for check the box of getting you the rubber stamp for being certified against a certain regulation or a framework. And I really think AI can come in and help with that education space. We checked the box and said we've got malware detection deployed on all of our endpoints. All right, so we're covered. But, hey, what about our server environments? What about our Mac environments? What about the ratio between Windows and Mac? Do we have covered for all of that? So it's these like nuanced things, and maybe going a step further on what you've got to do to check the box, to then actually what to do to put in security controls and validate that, right? Hopefully auditors will get better. Hopefully folks in our space will realize, all right, we're not just checking the box, but we're actually maturing our security program and being able to track that with some data science methods, metrics, and an AI assistant to really call out those gaps that an auditor may have missed, that you may have missed, that your level may have missed. It's third party, hopefully assistant or co-intelligence that can really step up our game in security defense.
Yeah, I like to say, but I think as long as it's used properly, I think it's good. I can't get it to do different things for me on email and stuff like that, and it gets the gist of it. But you definitely need to be putting your own spin on it. You need to, whatever it is, whether it's a SOC 2 audit or whether it's writing it, you need to really understand that. You need to have the background knowledge.
Right.
You still need to have that base knowledge, mate, don't you?
Yeah. And not only base knowledge, but it comes from like the education, right? And formulating that learning to either your AI agent or your junior staff member, and having those like management types of skill set, I think is really good to play with the AI and get really good results. So it's a lot of trial and error, but it's asking the right questions and sifting out and knowing what is a hallucination or math error versus, hey, this is a good answer, trust, verify, especially with the AI agents.
Yeah. That's a good point you make as well, mate, because AI has a habit of telling us what we want to hear, and you have to prompt it to go, no, look, be more honest. Let's stop telling me what you think I want to hear. You're just not very honest, my friend, is what I'm trying to say sometimes. You have to give it a bit of a kick.
Oh, yeah.
So, cool. And I just want to talk about your talks as well, Brennan. This is something that I'm a massive fan. I'm seeing it more and more, like the communication piece becoming center stage. I think since remote work's been a bigger thing, I think the community of that activity is massive for career growth and career progression. Maybe guys that are, and girls that are at mine and your stage, it might not be as important, but I still think it's pretty important. But for people at the junior end, I think kind of talks and that community of that activity is massive. I know that you're pretty big on. Do you want to tell us more about the talks you've got?
Yeah, sure. No, first off, on just conferences in general, like post-COVID, right? And then throw top of that, work from home and AI. Those three things are having a huge impact on folks trying to get into the industry. So you got to get out. You got to get mentorship. If you can't get that from management, being in the office or being in these meetings, one-on-one IRL, right, then you've got to figure out another avenue to get it. So I am a huge proponent of competency. And look, some are great, some are not so great. I've been to, I want to say 18, 19 so far this year. I've been fortunate for getting accepted to these talks and with my interest of AI for cybersecurity, and go figure people want to talk about it at these conferences. And that learning, that ever learning, and just being a student of cybersecurity through the outlet of conferences is great. And then the mentorship of networking, of listening from folks, taking some good notes and having takeaways of coming out and trying new things, experimenting back in your own company is how you're going to grow, right? Education route, great. But I also think having a portfolio of work, experiment, your labs, testing things out that you've learned from conferences is even more powerful, because you can speak to it in your day-to-day, to your management, your growth opportunities, right? And having that portfolio of projects is really going to help you get to that next level in your career. Conferences are a great way to enhance that.
Yeah, they are. It's just endless, man. Peace. People might get sick of me using this phrase if they listen to it for the regular listeners, because I use it all the time. But basically making your resume 3D, like not just where you've held various positions. Home labs there and lab environments, like these are all extra additional things, but it's getting to the stage now where people in the security space, it's almost expected. If no one's ever done any extracurricular activity in the security space outside of work, like it's a bit of a red flag. You're thinking, hang on, are you genuinely passionate about this? So yeah, it makes a big old difference. And the extra stuff is good fun as well. Like I'm presuming, mate, at those 18 conferences, I'm presuming you had some fun along the way as well.
Yeah, a few happy hours and dinners and meetings with folks, the swag that you pick up from conferences and the different destinations. Always fun.
Yeah, exactly. I think we just I'm guilty of it myself. It's so easy just to literally walk. The commute can be like, down the stairs or 20 foot across your apartment. It can be so quick, and we just get so used to being so efficient. So to take a day out or a few days out to do conferences, it feels like a big deal, but it is important. And I think the in-person piece and meeting up, like it's almost like becoming like a bit of a USP, because it's the big thing to meet up these days.
Sure. Yeah, we get trapped, right? We're in IT and the business sticks us in the basement or a closet with the server rack, and we're just supposed to crank out some code or secure that code, right? Lo and behold, in this AI day and age, robots and everything, look, there's still people out there, right? Like we've got to engage, we've got to communicate, and it's the people running the businesses for now. So let's keep up with that interaction.
Yeah, no, definitely, my friend. What talks have you got coming up, mate?
So I got Def Camp next week in Romania, in Bucharest there. I've also got Secure Carolinas in early December. And I've got another LinkedIn learning class coming out on AI tools and automation for cybersecurity. So if you haven't already checked out my previous classes on LinkedIn Learning, I got one for RAG, so that's Retrieval Augmented Generation, and use cases of RAG for cybersecurity. And then, of course, MCP, so that's Model Context Protocol, and use cases of using and securing MCP in cybersecurity.
Wicked, mate. By the way, we can get these in the show notes as well. So for people listening, we'll pop them in the link on YouTube. Maybe you're getting some traveling in as well. Like that's a long flight from where you are to Romania.
Yeah, my passport is filling up with stamps, which has been fun, and I'm collecting some bonus point miles. But meeting folks all around the world, and lo and behold, I picked up on a trend of places and interest of conferences around the Russia territory. Go figure, some of those countries are stepping up their cybersecurity defenses and want a leg up and help. Nation state politics aside, it's been fun to travel around in those places.
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting. I've done a lot of recruitment in Europe before, and I've done a lot, particularly in Poland. And there was one particular bank where if a pen tester had been at this bank, especially if they have a software development burst, they were phenomenal. I thought for obvious reasons, but yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because your security posture needs to be pretty good around that.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? I'm from the States, and lo and behold, like a lot of folks in Europe have different ideas, different thoughts, and are freaking brilliant in their mechanisms to just defend their networks because they're under attack. So I've learned a ton, especially when it comes to regulation, data privacy, which we fall behind in the U.S. So it's a nice balance. And yeah, they've got some good beers over there as well, which we're falling behind over in the U.S. A good combo to get out, learn, and drink some good beers.
Yeah, no, cool. But it's almost like diversity of thinking, whether you're male, female, from a different part of the world, black, white, Asian. It's like all that. Having all those different types of minds together, yeah, that's definitely advantageous from a security perspective, 100%.
Yeah, diversify your perspective, diversify your thoughts, be open to different meals, and then, different ways of securing your network. And through that, you're going to succeed.
Cool. I'm glad to hear you. I won't ask you what credit card you've got for security reasons, mate, but I'm glad to hear you get the air miles, because I've got one of those as well. And they rack them up, and you get some nice perks and some nice upgrades here and there. So it's, cool. All right, my friend. The question that I always like to, as we head towards the end, Brennan, is I used to say, which book has had the most positive impact on your career that could help other folks listening? But it could be book, it could be podcast, it could be online content you're consuming. Is there anything, any book that it can be security related? It doesn't have to be, but anything that's made you the best version of yourself that could help the listeners, really?
Oh, that's a great question. So I'll throw two at you. One boring book, but it's related to a certification. Yeah. So, the first thing that came to mind was the Shon Harris CISSP book. And I remember, maybe you remember just like painful things, but it was a huge 1,200 page, Bible book. I remember it was like gold trim. But it was the best thorough book of cybersecurity and learning all of the domains. And then, of course, applying that, and you pass the certification test. It seemed like still folks are hiring or requiring that as a middle and upper tier type of requirement for getting jobs. But it was fun to learn on the way. And then recently, tons of AI books coming up, but Ethan Mollick's book on co-intelligence is really thoughtful and helpful on how to use AI in your day-to-day. And it's looking forward as to how it should be implemented, and then looking back on the history of AI and some of the AI winters, and now how technology has come to fruition, and what's that going to mean for us, our careers, society in general, and then using AI as an assistant, as a tool, and not so much as a deterrent or to be angry at. So, those are our two recommendations I would offer out folks.
Thanks, mate. And you're right. You mentioned CISSP. Yeah, I'm just literally thinking about the last couple of searches we've delivered on.
And it makes you well-rounded. Right. I get it. You want to focus on a particular route like pen testing. But in order to be successful at this role, it goes back to what we were talking about before, right? It's behaviors. It's personal interaction. Being well-rounded, a jack of all trades, and you're figuring out the nuances and different angles to take when navigating and building out mature cybersecurity practices. You're not going to do that by just being a really good pen tester. If you want that, you're going to be a hired gun, right? And come in and to a pen test company, and then you parachute out. Why not parachute in and have a general broad sense of cybersecurity? You've got to focus on certain things at certain times, but having that foundation, I think, with CIS has really helped my career.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And I really like a lot of the things you mentioned there, Brennan, about navigating things, relationships and stuff like that. Because at least for the time being, I just think, not even for the time being, I think for the foreseeable, that's just not anything that's going to get replaced. I think relationship piece and being able to liaise and offer that kind of white glove service, I just don't think that's going anywhere. I actually think people are probably going to be craving it more than ever, because you go online now and everything's just, I'm sure your inbox is the same because you've got founder on your LinkedIn page as well, Brennan. But ever since I changed to founder on my page, it's just bombarded. You can see them a mile off as well. Inbox is just full of AI generated, it's just so annoying. So you crave that real human kind of high quality service, I think.
Right. And having the right attitude. It just goes back, what is your angle? What are you really trying to solve? Is it to make billions? Then probably your mission isn't right. Especially cybersecurity right now. We all need a leg up. I think AI is good, but hey, let's try to mature. Let's try to learn and grow and build right for cybersecurity, and instead of these bloated vendors being like Salt Bay and sprinkling AI all over the place for the raw reasons. And experiment out there.
Cool. Thanks, mate. You think we've done all right, mate? You think we've about smashed it?
Yeah, hit it out of the park. This is great.
Good. No, nice to see you, mate. Well, thanks for your time, mate. It's been good to see you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. This is fun. Thanks for having me, man.